Yes. Woo! This is a good one. Yeah. This is a really, really good song. It was ringing in my spirit all this week. It started last week, and I was just, it was just something about it. Just meditating in my spirit and just ministering to my spirit. Just the fact that the promises that He promised us, He hasn't forgotten about us. He hasn't forgotten about us. You know, and He promised me, and it's so personal. Yeah. And I think that on this walk, it is so personal. It is personal. It is so personal because, you know, you get to the place when you say, He promised me.
Yeah.
Right. You know, I don't know what you're going through, you know, and at the end of the day, I'm praying for you, but you know what? There's a promise that He promised me. Because I think that everybody in this very unknown season is going through something.
Yeah, absolutely.
And we get to the place where, you know, we're not being selfish at all.
No,
but we get to the place when, you know what? It's about a promise that He promised me.
Absolutely.
You know, a lot of times we can look at other people, look at their situation, and we can kind of forget about the fact that God promised us these things. Because we get caught up in our children as women. You know what I mean? We get caught up in our jobs. We get caught up with our finances. And we forget about the promise that He promised us. So this song just ministered to my spirit. And I'm just,
it's a reminder.
Yeah.
It reminds you that God made a promise to you.
Absolutely.
And it's okay for you to hold Him to that promise.
Absolutely.
And it's okay because sometimes we forget, as Christians, I think that, as you said, we get wrapped up in everybody else's problems. And sometimes we don't think that either we're worthy or sometimes, you know, because of religious mentality with a lot of people, as Christians, they feel like you're supposed to live this very modest life.
Right.
But I look at it like this. The Bible says that once we go on to heaven, God has, what did He have for us? He said, my Father's house, right?
Yes.
He said, there are many mansions. The streets are paved of gold.
Yes.
He's got rubies waiting for us. Now, if that's a God that wants all these riches and all these nice, fine things for us, once we've gone on, doesn't He want the same things for us here?
Yes.
And God said, I wish above all things, that you prosper and be in good health. And when He makes a promise to us, He never goes back on His promise.
So we have to be very careful not to get caught up.
Absolutely.
We have to be careful not to get caught up in our situations. We have to get caught up, you know, in our circumstances. And we have to oftentimes, and I think that we should bullet that. We get to a place where we have to just have this conversation, you know, and just get into a quiet place and have this conversation with Dad and say, you know, you promised me. You promised me.
That's right.
You know, so that we can stay
like
forward and steadfast.
That's right.
You know, on this journey.
Yes. Amen.
You know, on this journey. So welcome to our sisters. And, you know, we welcome you here. We're here. We just want to talk about it. And, you know, we want to tell it kingdom style. Because I do believe that there's two kinds of styles. There's a world style and there's a kingdom style.
Absolutely.
There should be two.
That's right.
You know, at the end of the day, there really are. There is two.
The line should not blur to where you don't know.
So there's a choice that I believe that you have to make on this journey. There are two styles. There's a kingdom style and there's the world style. But then we have to make a choice. Sister Corinne, on which side, which style. You know what I mean? We want to live on. I want to live on a kingdom. Kingdom way. And on the kingdom way, you know, it's His righteous way.
That's right.
So welcome, and thank you all so much for chiming in with us. You know, we just want to get together and we want to share our kingdom experience, and we want to talk about a lot of different current events that's happening in the world to see if we can put our kingdom spin on it. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
So we can help and just try to balance out everything so that we can live a life of endurance. So welcome, Sister Corinne. So much for coming in and just saying yes to the calling. And that's really, we just want to jump in it tonight because that's what we want to talk about. Because there is, you know, a lot of talk going around about kingdom, a lot of talk going around. And what is kingdom? Kingdom is righteousness. And we have talked a lot and we've done a series, and I think we should just slow down and talk about it.
Break it down.
We want to break it down because we want to give a shout out to ATL. We want to give a shout out to West Palm Beach. That's coming in agreement with the calling and standing with us for righteousness. That it.
Absolutely.
That's it.
Absolutely.
Just for righteousness, the power to be right by God's standards.
Yes.
Is that all right?
Exactly.
And so we really want to talk about it, Elder Carol, Sister Corinne. We want to talk about it. We want to talk about it slowly because we want a clear understanding, of what this really means, and get more importantly, I believe, get a revelation.
Amen. That's good.
We need a revelation.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely.
And that's important what you just said. We need what?
We don't need more information. We need
more revelation.
We don't need more information. That's powerful. We need more revelation.
That's right. Because information without revelation is just dead information. Because you can't do anything with it. Because revelation is what? Understanding.
Right.
It breaks it down.
Yeah.
So what good is all this information if there's no revelation? I don't know what to do with this information. It's just dead information. And dead information cannot do you any good in your life.
That's right. And understanding what revelation is all about.
Absolutely.
And that's funny. What did you say?
I said leaves and devastation.
We're going to go all the way in today.
Bullets.
I hope you guys are ready today. Yes.
And we want to talk about this stuff, and it's so important that we really talk about it because you know what? At the end of the day, we want to live.
Yeah, absolutely.
We want to live this life that's promised to us. We talk about the promise.
Absolutely.
He promised me. Well, he promised us according to John 10:10, right?
Yes.
He promised us this abundant life.
Yes.
But if we don't come into the process of standing on what righteousness really means, we're going to miss the opportunity to live this abundant life because we're talking about living off God's standards and in His standards. So now I'm willing to give up my rights, and that's what we want to talk about. The righteousness versus the rights. And I wrote out a few things that I thought was really powerful, and as the Holy Spirit began to speak, and I thought, this is really good because we want to deal with righteousness because we want to bring a full understanding.
That's right. Absolutely.
That God don't expect us to give up our rights as a mother, as a wife, as a sister, as a friend, because we know that right means a legal entitlement.
Yes.
Is that all right?
Yes.
So that gives us a legal entitlement, but I believe when that legal entitlement interferes with the will of God, then we have an issue.
Right.
Yeah.
Because I think that God has given us a grace to hold these legal rights.
Right.
Yeah.
And when we operate outside of God's grace, then and only then we get to a place where we can't give God the glory because we're not operating in His grace. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Totally. So we want to talk about that legal entitlement and when do we withhold from that legal entitlement and say, you know what? I don't have a right here to argue.
Right. Absolutely.
That's good.
I don't have a right here to complain.
Yeah.
I don't have a right here, to put myself in a position where I have to defend my name.
Yeah.
Because when I do that, God's grace is not standing in my life.
Absolutely.
And God can get the glory from my rights.
Absolutely.
He only can get the glory for my for His righteousness. Does that make sense?
Yes. And His righteousness is the right thing.
Right.
Like we often say, what we have a right to do and what's the right thing. These are two different territories that we can really travel in. As being adults, and we've said it before, we have a right to do a whole lot of things.
Yes.
But are they the right thing to do? And I think God's righteousness, when it comes into play with the right thing versus what you have a right to do, you have to make a choice. Righteousness is a choice.
Yes.
Right.
You're entitled is your right.
Yes.
Entitlement is your right. Means that you have to do nothing to get it.
Yes.
Because if I'm born, once I hit 18, I'm an adult.
Right.
I have a right to drink. I have a right to smoke.
Right.
I have a right to do a whole lot of things, right?
Right.
But are they the right thing to do if I want to be righteous and if I want to live a righteous life and qualify for the things that God has for me? Now there's a choice.
That's good.
See, it's not about entitlement now. It's about qualification.
Yes.
And it's about being righteous. It's a choice.
Yes.
The same thing is what God says. I'm not going to force my way on you.
Yes.
I want you to make a choice.
Yes.
Because when you make a choice, then you have a heart for me. Then you love me. And if you love me and if you have a heart for me, you're going to trust me.
Yes.
And if you trust me, then you will do what's righteous by my standard.
But how can we make that choice
Yeah.
without renewing of the mind?
You
You can't.
That's the thing.
Yeah.
We're always going to seek to do what we want to do.
Yeah.
So that righteousness is God's way of doing right and being right.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Our opinion, our will has nothing to do with what that is.
Because we give up that at the door.
Right.
That's
Right.
right.
So if you want to be righteous, what you want or what you think is right doesn't matter. What you feel like doesn't matter. And that is only going to happen unless your mind is renewed, because, as people, we're brought up thinking, okay, what I want, what I think, what I feel.
Yeah.
So you
have a right to.
You can't give up
That's right.
without renewing your mind.
Right.
That's it.
You can't.
That's it.
Yeah.
And when you get to the place where you say, you know what, my mind has to be renewed.
Right.
It does.
And a lot of times we try to operate in these kingdom things without renewing of the mind.
Right.
And we can't do that
Yeah.
because it's impossible
That's right.
for us to walk into these principles to give up our rights without renewing of the mind.
Right.
So when you talk about choice, Elder Carol, that's what I think about.
Absolutely.
I think about, okay, in order for me to make this choice, I must first renew my mind.
That's
And
right.
I think that's a key bullet
Right.
because we're trying to operate in these different characters, this character of God, and we have not operated in the first step, which is the renewal
Renewing your
of the mind.
That's right.
So
That's
now
right.
I'm operating in the wrong mindset.
Yes,
and I
absolutely.
can expect for God to come and move in my situation because I haven't given up my right. But I can't give up my right because I have not renewed my mind.
Absolutely.
So I think we get to the place when we understand that renewal of the mind is so important.
Yeah, it is.
And we get to the place when you say, you know what, we must renew our mind in order to walk into God's righteousness.
Absolutely.
And I think that becomes a struggle with us.
Yeah, absolutely.
I don't want to give up my right. I don't want to give up my
Absolutely.
right. I don't want to give up my right.
Yeah.
My right to argue.
Right.
My right to chastise.
Yeah.
But I think that there is a grace that God gives us to operate within the order of a mindset of
absolutely.
Christ. Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
And I think it goes back to what we said in the beginning about revelation. You will never get a complete revelation if you don't renew your mind.
Absolutely.
Because how can you understand revelation, which is Christ-like thinking, if you don't renew your mind to be able to be in a position to where you are Christ-like thinking? It's just like a computer. We have several programs in a computer, but just like on my job, there's certain times, a quarter or a month, we have to completely shut down our system so that they can put upgrades in the system. So the next time we come to work, once we turn on our computer, now we can receive data and information that has been downloaded. But if we don't first cut everything off, then they can never upload that. It's just like having a renewed mind. If you don't shut everything down that you're used to, that you're been taught to do, everything that the world says, if you don't shut all of that down and allow the renewing of your mind, as it says in Romans, to be downloaded in you, you will never be able to operate in the upgrades that God has for you.
That's right. That's right.
But it takes you shutting it down.
That's good.
You've got to shut all of that stuff down that you are familiar with. Shut all of that stuff down that you've been taught. Because truth be told, all the teachings are not right. Because there's no revelation in all of that. Because we're taught in the natural. We're taught to believe what we see. We're not taught to believe spiritually what God has said. And I'm not talking spiritual teachings. I'm talking natural teachings on how we're taught from babies when we're born, right? These are the natural teachings as man that have been downloaded into us. And until we give our bodies and our minds an opportunity to shut down and then reprogrammed to renew our minds, now we can think like Christ. We can see the things that he has for us. We can make those decisions because now righteousness and right are two different things for us, right?
Absolutely.
And not blurring into the line where I can't make a decision. No, I have a right to do that. But you hit it. The only way that we can make a righteous decision is to renew our minds. Otherwise, what did you say? You said a long time ago. It's like talking to a wall and expecting that wall to answer you.
That's it.
That's how it is if you expect to make a righteous decision, but you have never allowed yourself to renew your mind. You cannot make a righteous decision. You may make a right by man-made terms decision, but that right decision and righteous decision may be two separate things.
That's good.
Yeah.
That's good. And Revelation is really, you mentioned Revelation. Revelation is not for the right, it's for the righteousness.
Yes.
And that's what we understand
That's
that.
good.
Yes.
Revelation is not set aside for the right because the right will never understand righteous ways.
Yes.
Why would I love my enemy?
Ooh, that's a good one right there.
That don't make
You can
sense
stay there all day long.
to
That's a
me,
good
right?
one. Yes.
Yeah. So that don't make sense to me.
Yeah.
Why would I love someone that despitefully used me all the time?
That's right.
Well, there's a mindset of coming out of the old, and then I believe because we always want evidence of some type of change in our
Yeah.
life, right?
Yeah.
We get tired of hitting that wall over and over. We get tired of hitting that wall in relationships, right?
Yes.
We're tired of hitting that wall with that same coworker.
Yes. Yes.
We're tired of sitting
Yes.
that wall with our children.
Yes.
And we
With our
understand
finances.
With our finances.
Only get to a certain
That's
point.
it.
Yes.
And we understand what's the missing link
Yeah.
in this situation is
Yes.
revelation.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
And so that revelation brings on that relationship
Wow.
with God
Wow.
so that we can come in the righteousness state of mind
Wow.
and come out of our wait. That's when you go, I want to come out of my right
So what
way,
you're saying is the only
Yeah.
thing that makes a difference is our thinking.
It's our thinking.
Right.
That's our thinking, and that's
Wow.
the renewal piece.
Yeah.
And that's
Wow.
when you realize
Yeah.
that my way is not the right
Yes.
way. I'm tired of
Oh my
coming
gosh.
home
Wow.
and dealing with the wall.
Yeah. Wow.
You know what I mean?
Right.
And that's for everyone. And I know
Yeah.
there are people out there
Yeah.
that's constantly dealing with a wall when they
Yes.
get home.
Right.
Yeah.
You know,
Wow.
whether or not,
That's
you
deep.
know, that,
Yeah.
and that wall has a
Yeah.
name. You know what I mean?
Come on now.
Yeah. And it's like the
Yeah.
only thing is missing is revelation.
That's right.
Exactly.
And only righteousness receive revelation.
Revelation,
The
yeah.
right don't receive that.
No, ma'am.
So we got to
No,
be
ma'am.
careful of people that
Yes.
always want to be right.
Yes.
No
Right.
judging call.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yes.
This is a righteous call.
Yeah.
I often say
And your
that.
natural mind will never understand that.
No.
Not your
Absolutely.
natural mind, your spiritual mind,
Right.
but not your natural mind.
That's
What
it.
does that mean? You got to renew your mind.
Right.
We
Yeah.
cannot lose that part. You cannot do it without, and that's the most important. That's the first step.
Absolutely.
That's step number
That's
one,
it.
but that's the step that a lot of us try to avoid.
Yeah.
And that's why we're frustrated. And that's why we come home dealing with the same wall
That's it.
all the time, expecting the wall to change,
That's
it.
expecting our situation to change. Your situation is not going to change. You have to change.
You have to
Right.
change.
Some situations just won't change.
And what happens when
Yes,
you change?
absolutely.
Your
Your
mindset,
mindset changes.
and then your
Right.
perception
Right, changes. Right.
And so why
Yes.
do we want to come
Yes.
into this righteousness piece? Why do I want to give up my
That's
right to
deep.
argue? To come into this righteousness of what?
Yes, peace.
Joy.
Wow. Yes.
Love.
Yes.
You know,
Yes.
all these
Absolutely.
things brings
Yeah.
on,
Yeah.
you know, his righteousness.
That's right. That's
You
right.
were saying a few statements back a word want. Now, if our mind is not renewed, we're not going to want to do
Yes.
any of this.
Yes.
Nobody wants to give up their right. We want what we want.
That's
we,
right.
we come on this earth wanting what we want.
Absolutely.
When Reagan cries, do you think she cared and mommy has
Yeah.
to run to the restroom right now?
Right.
Or mommy has no.
Right.
I want my basket power or bottle, whatever it is.
Yeah.
I want something. I need you to give it to me now.
Now, right now.
So,
That's good.
you know.
And that's a child of, that's a mind of a child.
Right,
Right.
right, right.
And we act that way sometimes.
That's right,
We
yes, we
act
do.
as a 3-month-old
That's
baby.
right.
Whatever.
Yeah.
But you know, when you talk about righteousness,
Yeah.
I have to want that.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And
Yeah.
I'm not gonna want it
Absolutely.
unless my
Yes.
mind is renewed.
That's
So
right.
we
Yes.
have to at least get to
Yes.
the point that
Yes.
I
Yes.
wanna
Yes.
be right.
Yes.
That's good.
Yeah. Now I'm going to read something that is directly correlated with what you just said.
Wow.
And I'll prove what you just said. And it's in Psalms 37 and 37 says, "Mark the perfect man, and behold the upright, for the end of that man is peace." These are the heritage of the qualities of righteous men and women. They enjoy peace, but there is no peace for the wicked who broke God's law, or the believer pretending to worship God.
Oh, that's good.
That's right in line with what you just
That's
said.
pretending, yeah.
Righteous and peace.
Yeah.
But you got to make a choice. And it says, "Mark the perfect man and behold the upright. For the end of that man is peace."
It's peace. So that's an evaluation right there.
And you posed the question,
Yeah.
why do we want to be righteous?
That's it.
Why do I want to change my way of thinking?
Absolutely.
Why?
That's
Because
it.
at the end of the day, tell me that you don't want peace.
That's a
it's
check
what
off.
we seek
Absolutely.
in our relationships.
Yes.
We
Absolutely.
seek peace. Even in our finances,
Yes.
we seek peace. Peace is when your finances are in the black and not the red.
That's
Do
right.
you have peace when your bank account is negative?
Right.
Do you have peace when you don't have enough money to make your car payments and make your mortgage payment? No. Peace. Mark the perfect man. Righteousness.
That's it.
And if we change
Absolutely.
our thinking,
Absolutely.
we all can get to that point to where we can have that
Yes.
peace by making the right choices.
Absolutely.
Awesome.
Yeah, and I
Awesome.
think that our rights can get
Yeah.
can get out of control.
I
And I
agree.
think that, I think that God, we have to stand on, I think it's a balancing piece.
Yeah.
Right.
We can't, oh no, we're going to give up all our rights as a mom.
Yeah.
We
Yeah.
no longer
Of
can
course.
trespass our
Right, there you
child.
go.
You
Yeah.
know what I mean?
There you go. Make it
We
plain.
no
Break it
longer
down.
can
Break it
redirect
down.
our
Yeah.
child.
Wow.
When people do us wrong, we can't. No, it's
Right.
how you deal with it.
Right.
when your right way is out of control, then God can get the glory out of your life.
Right.
Yes.
So I don't really I think we, especially as women, we have to watch how we deal with issues.
Yes, absolutely.
And how and stop attacking them.
Yes.
You know what I mean? We get to the place where, we respond. And stop reacting to everything. And we respond in the spirit, but we react in our
the
flesh.
emotions in the flesh.
And that's when God can't no longer get the glory.
That's
so
right.
He doesn't want to take that right away from us from responding. You know what I mean?
Wow.
And I think that's something we need to talk about, because we have been dealing with right and righteousness. And I've had a few calls about that and say, you know what, Minister Angie, so that means I can't no longer trust them. No, absolutely.
No.
You correct, redirect, you reconstruct in your house, you
Absolutely.
rebuke.
Absolutely.
Hello, somebody.
Absolutely.
And you do all the things that a mom is supposed to do.
Absolutely.
But we need to watch this, learn how we have the right to attack. So we have a right to respond. And then watch this. Righteousness is to what?
Righteousness is to
respond, and then our flesh is to react. So I think that when we
That's
get to the
the
place,
I got
Elder
a right.
Clara,
I got a right. That's
that
the
we are reacting,
Absolutely.
that's when we lose, God can't get the glory out of our
Because we lose
situation.
control.
Yeah,
we lose control, and that's when we skid, and I'm going to use the word skid because your car skids when it's out of control.
Yes.
Right.
So that's when we skid off the road, is when we are in our emotions because we feel like we have a right to do
Absolutely.
it. That's the parent that says, do as I say because I said so. No, the righteous parent will be able to respond out of their spirit and give the reason why. No, you're going to do it because at this age, you have no right to be doing that. Because that's not something that a young lady should be doing. Because at this time of night, there's nothing but trouble out there. Because now you're responding out of that righteousness, but you're not reacting out of the right, which will cause you to have an accident. And the accident is when you're going to butt heads with your child, and you got to understand that the enemy's job is to divide. He's going to first try to divide the seed that you have in your home. And if you're not careful, because you're so emotional and you feel like you have a right, parents, we have to stop. And we've got to think, and we have to operate in that righteous realm, which means you're still not giving up being a parent.
That's it.
But you're simply responding out of the righteousness. What would Jesus do? Hey, God still chastised. He still held us accountable. He still was a great leader. But guess what? He didn't force.
That's it.
He says get angry, but sin not. And when you're operating in that I have a right to, you got to be careful, because you might find yourself skidding off the road into sin. Why? Because you're emotional.
That's it. And transition to me is always subjective. So at the end of the day, we want our children where? On kingdom. And we have to be careful how we carry his name.
That's true. So true.
I'm carrying the name of God. I'm carrying his name. I represent the kingdom. I represent who God is. And I serve God. This is what we're serving our home, and then we end up walking into two lifestyles, and we have to be very careful, because our objective is to bring them into the kingdom of God, so they can live this free life. We want freedom for their life.
That's the
and we
objective.
want salvation for their life. Well, why would they want to come over into salvation when we have two mindsets? They're like, I might as well stay over here. That's the way your kingdom is. And so we have to be very careful, because in the midst of chastising, in the midst of correcting, redirecting, and rebuking, or whatever we have to do, our children, our objective is to bring them over into the kingdom. We want them into the kingdom of God. And we want to push them away. We want to bring forth them. So wisdom have to be our friend. And wisdom is righteousness. There's no other way. Wisdom is righteousness. And that's the key here. And that's what we want. This really try to really geared towards women giving up that right to argue, giving up that right, knowing when to say, not right now.
Not right now. That's right.
And walking away from it, because we know what we can and cannot tolerate.
Absolutely. Even in a relationship, the same thing. in a relationship, and we have to be so careful, especially with us Christians, when you have one that's saved and one that's not saved. We have to be careful how we are trying to lead that other one to Christ, because most of it's going to be by your actions, not by your words, right? Because your words is going to cause you to operate in that what I have a right to say, because I'm a Christian and I'm going to tell you this is the right way. But what are your emotions saying? You need to lead out of that responding and out of the righteousness. Can you give up your right to be right, to operate in the righteous in order to gain that soul over to Christ? The Bible says, God said, with love and kindness did I draw thee. That means that you got to trust God and you've got to give it to him. But you have to understand your actions. That's what leads people to Christ or deters them away. Even in your home.
That's it.
Even in your home, it says in the Bible, doesn't it say I'd rather be on the rooftop than in a house with a what?
That's it. Absolutely.
So we have to understand, even sometimes trying, and we do it for the right reason. Sometimes we do the wrong thing for the right reason. But we have to understand, again, it's operating, as you said, out of a vein of righteousness, which means you're responding from your spirit. Or I have a right, which means I'm responding from my emotions.
Yeah.
And if you respond from the spirit, God is going to lead and guide you, and he's going to help you walk up right in front of that person to where they're going to see nothing but peace on you. Yeah. Even though they may be doing the wrong thing, they're going to see peace on you. And it comes a time, especially when there's love in the home, and sometimes people do the wrong thing. They make mistakes. It doesn't mean love isn't there.
That's it.
But they will be condemned by God when they see the peace of God on you. When they see you arguing and fussing and bickering and I got a right to, you will not allow them. Condemnation is not going to find them because they're going to be too busy trying to defend themselves to you. So they can't see God. You have to allow them to see the Spirit of God that resides in you so they can want to say, I want to give up this wrestle that I'm on because I want that same peace that I see. Or they will be condemned by God. Condemnation will find them by God, not by you. Yes. But you got to be able to trust God in order to do that. So turn a blind eye sometimes to what you see in the natural in order to walk upright. And then the question is, how do we do that?
That's it. That's it.
How do we do that? Absolutely.
He's going to do it on his time.
Absolutely.
And we just have to trust that, okay, it's, oh gosh, it's taking so long. Yeah. It's not taking long. It's going to happen when it's supposed to happen. Yeah. We just have to trust that it doesn't mean you forgot. Yeah. Doesn't mean he's not going to get to it. Yeah. He's just not going to do it when you want him to do it. He's going to do it when he wants to do it.
That's it. And when we're impatient like that, it causes us to move out of the realm of God. So out of his will, and we end up missing out blessings.
That's
well, we can't. Well, we can't tell him. And righteousness simply means, Lord, I've learned how to wait on you.
That's right.
I've learned how to wait on you, right? Yes. I've learned how to wait on you because righteousness causes me to wait. Yeah.
That's right. It does.
So when I'm unrighteousness and when I'm dealing with my rights, my rights say I don't have to wait. I'm gonna move.
That's right.
When I want to move, and we moving out of the will of God, and we end up missing blessings, and that's why the mindset stay in captivity, and that's why we stay, in a lack of peace, especially as women, because we don't have the patience to wait on the Lord. Well, only his righteousness will have us to stand, in the midst of a storm and understanding the process of waiting on the Lord. And that takes me, and Mom mentioned this today, it was so powerful. I was walking out the door, she said, Psalms 23:3, and it was really powerful. He leads me down the path of righteousness. For what? His name's sake.
Not yours.
So, and so when I thought about that, I went, man, that's real good.
That's deep.
How he leads us.
Simple but deep.
So when we think about it, ladies, we think about our life is like a path.
Yeah.
He lead us down a pathway, right? So he lead us down this path of righteousness. So the process is a pathway. Is that okay?
Yes, it is.
And so in order for us to go down this pathway of righteousness, at the gate, I got to give up my right. Because God is leading me down the pathway of righteousness. He didn't say he lead me down a path of right.
That's right.
We ain't dealing with right now. I'm being led by the righteousness for not because I think when it's my way, it's the right way. That's Angela's way.
Yeah.
So Angela's going to get the glory.
Yeah.
You know, for my name's sake.
Right.
You know, so it's not about you.
Yeah.
So we give up all these things for His name to take on the name of God. I think that's so powerful. And you know what I thought about at the end of the day? He's saying, don't mess up my name.
See, that's good.
Right?
That's good.
Because you keep on that job calling Jesus. You all in your home talking about, thank you, Jesus.
Because everybody knows you're screaming Jesus.
Because you're carrying this church around. We're not talking about the building of the church. We're talking about this church
inside you.
You're telling your kids to pray. You know, your spouse is watching you, you know, in your little quiet place praying.
So you're professing
to
have God in you. Absolutely.
But we haven't given up our right
That's good.
for His righteousness. And we're not doing well with His name.
Right.
God wants honor and glory to only His name.
That's great. That's
not
good.
our name. I says Angela. Right, Carol?
That's good.
I says Carol. I says Corinne. There's no God. There's no room for God in that.
Right. No, it's not.
Because it's about my way.
It's about me. And it's about
my right.
Yeah.
You know, even if you have an issue, that this kind of came into my in my space. It was really powerful, and it was a great outcome. But you know, I want to talk about this for a moment. Even when you have a problem with someone, that don't mean God don't give you the right to deal with it.
Yes.
That doesn't mean your right is not is taken away from you. He said, "Oh, just ignore it. Don't worry about it. Just let them treat you in a kind of way." No. If you have an ought.
He said, take it to you. He said, if you got an ought against your brother, go to them. So it's how you go. It's not. He's not telling you not to go. It's how you go.
And once again, that mindset of
responding and not reacting.
That's it. Through revelation.
Yes.
Because understanding God has given us all the tools that we need to survive.
That's right.
Already in us.
It's already in us.
That's right.
So that we can walk in this peace.
That's right.
Right?
That's right.
In this love.
Yeah.
But we're struggling because we don't want to give up our right.
Absolutely.
This is a good one. I know I was right about this.
Absolutely right.
You know?
And it's hard. Especially when you know it. Sometimes you do. Sometimes it's black and white.
Right.
And you know that you're right and that other person is wrong.
Right.
And that's the burning
Have you
part.
ever had that moment?
And it's the burning thing. Yes, goodness. That
When
you
you know you're
cannot
right.
And it's hard for you to give up that right. And sometimes God is saying, can you give it up? Because I'm asking you to. Because if you don't, it's going to lead you down a path of unrighteousness.
And what he said, where confusion is,
I'm not there. I'm
so
gone.
now this
So
is
he
what's
said,
happening.
I done checked that.
Even though I'm right, I'm self-righteous now.
Yeah. And as you keep pushing your right,
And
what happens? God said, I'm out of here. I'm going to check out.
Right.
So he
because
said,
I'm trying to talk to you and you're not listening.
but how
So let me just.
how can I get the glory out of this?
I can't.
You can't.
So he leaves.
How can I get the glory out of your right? Well, right now you look so wrong.
Because you're doing it your name.
Even though you're right.
I think that's powerful. Because we just want to shift into the
That's
mindset.
good.
Because I believe someone out there is going through some type of transition in their life right now. I believe that someone is out there is going through something where they're having a tug of war, whether or not with your husband, you're having a tug of war, whether or not with someone on your job.
With your
You could
children.
even be having a tug of war with your kids right now.
Right.
Or even one of your parents. I don't know. But at the end of the day, listen, God said give up that right for his righteousness.
Right.
Give up that right for his peace. Give up that right for his love. Because right now, the enemy is getting the glory.
That's right.
God can't get the glory where there's confusion.
That's right.
And when you give up your right, you're walking on God's righteousness. And there and only there, he finds his peace. Because at the end of the day, he's looking for himself in you.
Amen.
So I want to encourage someone today. We're here to encourage someone. And I believe, Elder Kara, I believe, Sister Corinne, someone is coming into a new mindset. What I feel they're saying, you know what? This is not worth it. Tomorrow I'm going to make peace. You know what? I'm going to make peace. Because I'm getting revelation now. I'm not just getting information. I'm getting revelation. Because it's at the end of the day, that's where the true manifestation of his glory is. It's in his peace. God can't get the glory where there is no peace.
No,
I'm sorry. You know, whether or not the situation is healed, whether or not you're delivered out, he can get the glory in the process.
Absolutely.
That's powerful, isn't it? Because,
absolutely.
You know, I keep thinking about the word that says the path of righteousness. It doesn't say the shortcut. It doesn't say the bus stop. You know, it's not one point. It's a process.
It's a path.
A path usually is kind of long.
That's
right. you know, and a path becomes a path because we keep going that way,
Yeah.
you know, you can see any field, you'll see a little path because people kept walking that way and they kept wearing, you know, an opening because they kept at it, they kept at it, they kept at it. So, you know, we talk about this righteousness, you know, right now, even today, okay, well, gosh, you know, how do I do that? With practice. You know, you keep walking that way, you keep walking that way. Consistency, even something small. It could be you watching TV and you said, you know, there was this actor and your spouse said it was that actor. You know it wasn't that person.
Yeah.
So instead of breaking out the iPhone, you know, and proving that you're right, it may be, okay, I know I'm right. Just let it be enough to you. Like, okay, I know.
Yeah.
You know, the Lord is struggling. Just practice little things. Just not always having to, I like that. See, I told you.
Right.
That's a really good strategy.
Yeah.
Just you know, that's
because
a really good strategy.
that see, I told you at some point
Stop
in time, it kind of belittles people and it makes them feel like you're a know-it-all.
Right.
And if you leave it alone, sometimes they'll come back and say, you know what? I went and checked and you were right about that. You know, because they came to you now.
Right.
You know, there's no intimidation.
Right.
But if you've got it, you know, some people are at that point where they got to be right all the time. See, I told you. And if you're the type of person that got to always say, I told you so, then you got to check it out because you're probably not walking in the righteousness of God, but you're walking in pride, which is your right.
You're right.
And in essence, what we're saying is God's right or your right, because his righteousness is his right.
Right.
So it's God's right or it's your right. Can't you give up your right for his right? Which is to walk in his righteousness. Because the righteousness means what? To be right with God.
That's it.
Not to be right with you or to be right with man. To be right with God.
Right with God by his
Absolutely.
standards.
By his standards.
Right.
Which means, and that opens the door to the qualifications. Because you have to understand what appears to be on the outside is not always that way on the inside. That's why you see, and we can see, there are some of us Christians that do give up our right for God's righteousness. And those are the ones when you look, you see peace.
That's it. That's your key.
You see flourishment.
You're
like, how do they get that? And how do they do that? And look real closely and check out their lifestyle. Because more than likely they're living a lifestyle of righteousness when sometimes you don't see them acting up and acting out when they could because they're an adult.
Right.
But they're not cursing out somebody because that person talked about them or did something to them. They're walking away. It's that person that can walk away and walk in righteousness.
But do you know why? That's so powerful. Because you're walking away with peace.
With peace.
I think the challenge becomes as humans, as people, we want that immediate gratification.
Absolutely.
You know, so to be right with God, I might not get something right away.
Right.
Yes.
You know, maybe on the end I may see it. But you know, if I prove I'm right now to you, I prove that I'm right.
That
and I feel satisfied. And that's where we get people get caught up. So you know, we gotta get them to record, you know, that okay. So do you want to be right with God, or do you want to be right with people?
Or do you want instant gratification that's going to disappear and dissipate?
Right.
Or do you want the gratification from God that's going to give you an everlasting peace?
Right.
Because that's what I want.
And we want to get to that point.
You want to get to that point, right, that we want that by renewing our mind.
Exactly.
Right? By walking in Matthew 6:33, which says, seek ye first the kingdom of God and all his righteousness.
Right.
It's all your righteousness.
And
all these things, absolutely. And all these things shall be added to you. There's so many chapters and books and stories in the Bible that talk about God's righteousness. That's for a reason. Because that's where the peace lies. Because where there's peace, there's liberty.
And it goes right here, and we're going to back it up with word, Proverbs 21:21. I love it. Pin this for me. Whoever pursue righteousness, and we're just talking about, and this is a daily activity. So this is daily change. Where we're walking in it daily. We're changing our mindset daily. We're practicing it daily.
Amen.
Because it says whoever pursue means that I'm going to keep going. I'm not going to just do it on Sunday when I'm at church to impress the pastor. I'm not going to just do it at my job to impress my boss. You know what I mean? I am going to do it every single day. You know,
Right.
not going to do it to get the man, but I'm going to do it to keep the man.
Say
every
it.
single day, right? So I'm pursue righteousness. Watch this, and whoever pursues righteousness and love finds life and prosperity and honor to his name.
Yeah, Proverbs 21:3.
21 and right? 21 and 21? 21, 21.
21:21.
Yes. And then check this one out. Proverbs 21 and 3. Now, it says, too, we're going to back up righteousness again. To do what is righteousness and justice is more acceptable to the Lord than your sacrifice.
That's good.
That's good. That's good.
That's so powerful to me.
That's good.
That's more acceptable than your sacrifice.
That's right. That's good.
You know, you trying to give up this. I want to give up this to get this, Lord. God said you giving up that to give this, but you haven't given up your right yet.
Yep, that's right. That's right.
But when you stand on my righteousness and my justice, that's what he says in Proverbs 21 and 3, is more acceptable than your sacrifice.
Yeah.
So I'm going to stand on righteousness.
Yes.
It's more powerful for me every day just trying to give up something to get something back from God. You know that's how we do.
Absolutely. That's how
I'm
we
just
do it.
being real.
Yep, that's it.
You know, I'm just trying to
deals with God.
Yeah, absolutely. Because, until we get on this path
Exactly. Come on now, say it.
of righteousness every single day of my life. My objective is to live on your righteousness.
That's right. That's it.
And exactly, Corinne. I want to keep walking it out every single day. I'm thinking when I get up in the morning, Lord, your righteousness. Let me give up my
hallelujah.
right. I see issues going on in my
Thank
home.
you, Lord Jesus.
Sometimes God is saying, you got the right to deal with it, but this ain't the right time.
Yeah. Not the right time.
It's not the right time because my grace is not in it.
That's right.
Because you're getting ready to mess it up.
Yeah.
So this is all, going back to the Word of God because we want to have a positive result. And I believe that we are in a season where we're looking for positive results now.
That's
because
right.
we want positive results, but we don't see changes in this in this season that we're in because we're still holding on to those rights.
Wow.
Rights as that wife,
Yeah.
rights as that mother, rights as that. You know what I mean?
That's
Caretaker,
right.
rights
That's right.
as the boss.
That's right.
We need to know why we're not getting the results we're looking
Absolutely.
for because we're not doing the right thing.
And that's why we don't see change.
Right.
Absolutely.
Right? And that's why nothing is changing. Nothing is changing because we're not changing.
Exactly.
That's it.
We're still trying to walk in our right.
Absolutely. Trying to get them to change.
Right. And we're doing the same thing over and over and over. And that's why we're walking in frustrated grace.
That's it. Absolutely.
Because we're not willing to change. We're not willing to do something different. We're not willing. Our mind has not been renewed. When your mind is renewed, you're able to see things. Revelation means change. Revelation shifts, change. Revelation comes quickly. And you have to be able to shift with it. You can't do that if your mind has not been changed. If you don't renew your mind, you're going to think one way. It's like having tunnel vision.
Absolutely.
Revelation falls, and you got to be able to catch it. But you can't do that if you don't have a renewed mind.
Right.
You're going to be stuck in one place looking one way if your mind is set in one direction, which means you're going to continue to do the same things over and over. And that's what's leading to your frustration, to you hitting that brick wall in your home, on your job, in your churches, because you're not willing to renew your mind so that you can walk in the righteousness of Christ where peace lies.
Absolutely. And everyone goes through something. When Will passed, I just kind of thought about this. That feeling that I had when he passed.
Yeah.
I had the right to get mad.
Yes, you did.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I went through.
Absolutely.
And yet still
Yes,
mourning is a balance out.
Right,
When we go through that grieving period, it's a balance. But there's a time when I had to sit and I could have easily gotten angry.
Yes, you could. You had a
Because
right to.
now I'm here with two teenagers trying to figure it out with a overhead over my head. Correct?
Yes.
Situations here. All of what he had is sitting now on my lap.
Wow.
So I have the right. And I like what you said
like
earlier, Ella Cara. I had to make a choice.
Yeah.
I had to make a choice. Do you get angry, Angela? Because anger is not going to change nothing.
That's right.
I had to make a conscious decision. And do you realize, Corinne, every day of my life, I had to renew my mind.
Yeah.
Yes.
Every day. And sometimes 2 and 3 times a day.
That's every day. Several times.
Because of the magnitude. Because of the magnitude
and I find myself
of what shifted
Absolutely.
in your life.
Yeah, and I found that, it got to a point where, okay, 3 times a day.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Well, then there's sometimes, okay, today I'm good, but you know what? 4 times a day.
That's right.
There was times when constantly I had to renew my mind
You had to be able to
because
shift.
every moment of that, as that time period went by, there was an attack in my mind.
Absolutely, because you're human.
Absolutely. When I had to say, oh no, well, anger can't sit in me.
Yeah.
Right.
I had to every
Depression
day, and
can't
every
stay
time I
here.
renewed my mind, my choice was righteousness.
Yeah.
That's good.
Lord, your ways, not Angela ways. Yeah, I have the right to do this, but is that the right thing to do? No, I'm going to study your righteousness, and Lord, I'm going to get on your path of righteousness for your name's sake. Now, people are not going to understand. I don't expect them to understand. And so at the end of the day, when you do walk on this righteousness, we have to understand it's not for people to understand. This is God's righteousness for your life. And people are not going to get it. Because no one knows your story but you. It's personal. What did we say at the beginning?
That's right.
We got
it's personal.
At the beginning.
It was a promise that God made for me.
It's a promise that God made to me. So it got real personal for me.
Yeah.
And every moment, Corinne, I had to receive another dimension of His revelation.
That's deep.
To live. You know?
That's deep.
You said something. You had a right to be upset.
Absolutely.
But where we miss it is that, and all the different things we go through, and we have an opportunity to be angry or we got messed up, what have you. Yeah, you have a right to be upset.
Absolutely.
But we don't have a right to stay that way.
Absolutely.
So, whatever the case is, if you're angry about something, you're hurt about something, we have a right to be hurt, we have a right to be mad, we have a right to have those emotions, but we don't have a right to stay that way when God is willing to help us.
Or we have a right to stay that way, but make a choice to follow God's right. Because remember, we're saying, as a person that just lost their husband, you got a right to be angry and stay angry for the rest of your life. You have a right. That's your right.
Yes,
but we're not talking about you walking in your right. We're talking about you walking in God's right. So at a point, you have to make a conscious decision to give up, watch this, your right
and you know what?
to continue to walk into
And I'm going to
that.
ask you a question, but I had to realize, number one, it wasn't about me.
Yeah.
So I had to take all that. I had to take all that off of me.
Yeah.
Because I said, you know what, Angela, Willie's death was not about you.
Yeah.
Because a lot of times we can make these things about us, and we end up missing God.
That's right.
First of all, this is not about you.
Yeah.
This is not about you, so take that off you.
Right.
Because we end up wearing
that's right.
the weight of the world.
Yes, ma'am.
And when we wear the weight of the world, the only thing we think about what we got the right to do. I got this weight on me and I'm mad.
Yeah.
But it was not about you. So at that particular time, I had to realize it's not about Angela.
Yeah.
And if I take on this weight, who's this weight affecting?
Yes, absolutely.
And so a lot of times as women, we make decisions, but we forget about what our decision who they affect.
That's right. Not just your life, right?
It's not about you, Angela. So I thought about that even with you.
Okay.
What you went through. You had a right to get angry. Hey, you just walked out. You had a right to say, you know what, I'm really upset. I'm mad. How did you get to the place where you said, you know what, I chose righteousness?
Yes.
And I said that because I know there are many women out there that could be faced right now with a situation where their spouse, they might have just found out their spouse could be leaving, maybe perhaps just walked out.
Yeah.
How can you encourage them, Corinne, about the righteousness and how powerful it is to stand on God's righteousness, and what did it do for you?
Yeah, what did it do for your life? Absolutely.
Well, in those cases, you have the right to be angry, yes. You have to make a choice. Do I want to be bitter?
Yeah.
Or do I want to get better?
Yeah, that's good.
And so I had to make the decision that I didn't want to get better. I wanted to be better. Well, I'm not just going to get better by osmosis. I have to do something
to get better
in order to get better. So I ran after God. And in running after God,
so you gave up that right.
I gave up that right. I gave up the right
to
be upset. And even in that time, there was a situation, and I'll be frank, where there wasn't enough time being spent with my son, and so I was upset. You would pick him up, and hours later, the next day, and I didn't feel like he was getting the time he was supposed to get. And I felt myself getting upset about it.
You felt it.
I felt it coming on, and I said, no, I can't have this in me. It's gonna hurt me. It's gonna hurt my son.
That's right.
And so I said, okay, what do I do with it?
Yeah. Wow.
I can't do it. I can't make him spend more time.
Wow.
I said, but what I can,
because forcing him can do what?
it can make the situation worse.
Yeah.
It can make both of us bitter.
That's right.
And then now our bitterness is being poured onto our
Onto your son.
And
That's
I
it.
could not afford that.
Yeah.
So I said, well, he's not getting the time I want, but I can't do anything about it.
Yeah.
Lord, I give it to you.
Yeah.
And I will just say, I will change my perspective. I'll renew my mind and just say, hey, he's not getting the time I want.
So you gave
but
up
he's
your
getting
right to
some time.
argue?
So I gave him a right to argue.
Your right to complain?
I gave
Yeah.
him a right to complain.
Yeah.
Your right for bitterness?
I gave him a right for bitterness.
Your right for dysfunction?
I gave
Wow.
him a right for
These are things that
I
work.
gave-
Yeah.
And because you know all that brings on oppression and depression.
Right,
Yeah.
right,
Lack,
right.
you can't be the mother that you need to be to
Right,
your son.
right.
I'm giving all that
Right,
up
yeah.
for your righteousness
Right.
of peace.
Of peace, because my peace was so
Powerful.
the word became life to me during that time, because the word says that he'll give us a peace that surpasses all understanding. And I don't know if anybody else, but I always thought that it's the peace he's going to give you, other people will understand, like, oh, how she got that kind of peace?
Yeah.
But he'll give you a kind of peace that
You can't understand your own self.
you don't
Yeah.
understand
You
yourself.
can't
And I would be
understand.
like, well, how am I okay?
Yeah.
How am I not
That's
in
good.
the bed?
Yeah.
Not
Yeah.
in the bed, under the bed.
Yeah.
It still would cover. How am I did not understand my peace
Yeah.
at all, because God had rescued me
Wow.
from it. So as
Yeah.
I made the decision to say, Lord, I don't want to be bitter. I want to be better. He helped me, in doing that by making the decision and rescuing me from all those things that you said that I did have a right to. Not for my name's sake, but for his name's
Yeah.
sake.
Yeah.
Realizing at that time that it wasn't about me.
Yeah.
And I didn't know that it wasn't about me because I just know
Because
stuff.
you were right.
But because of the teachings that
Yeah.
I was under,
Yes.
to let me know that, okay, it's not about you. There are other women, there's your son. So it gave me a reason, to want to do better,
that's good.
because I realized that it wasn't about me, and I realized who it was for.
Yeah.
So instead of having that pity party, that I probably had a right to invite myself to.
That's it.
But I decided, okay, the best way, not decided that I learned during that time, that, okay, the best way to get my mind off of what I'm going through is to help somebody else.
And I really believe that
Yeah.
God don't pick
That's
on
good.
us; He picks us
picks
out.
us out.
Like He knew
Yes.
what you had,
That's right.
what He placed in you.
I didn't even know.
He
Yeah,
knew
but He knew.
what He
He knew.
placed in Angela.
Yeah.
He knew what He
Absolutely.
placed in
Right.
Carol.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so He knew that you were going to give up your right
Yeah.
for righteousness
Right.
to sit right on this panel
Yeah.
to help somebody.
Right.
Because
Absolutely.
once away, what do we say? It's
Yeah.
never
It's
about
not.
us.
That's right.
No.
And to
Absolutely.
get that is like a light.
Yeah.
Revelation is like a light.
Yeah.
Yes.
That
Yes.
goes,
Absolutely.
wow,
It is.
God.
It is. It is.
So you
Yeah.
had that wow moment.
And when you mentioned the word revelation, I remember at one of the earlier FCS meetings, and I hadn't gotten it yet, but you mentioned about us getting a revelation of God's love. And at that time, I didn't have it.
Wow.
And I remember you said, oh, I say Daddy J, Daddy J. And I didn't feel like I was there that I could say. I didn't feel like I earned the right to call him Daddy J. But the revelation of God's love is so powerful in that it teaches you, it reminds you that He does not pick on you. He's picking you up.
Yeah.
So it's like, wow, Lord, you
That's
love me
right.
so much
Yeah.
that you trust me to pick me up for
Yeah.
something. Oh my gosh. So
Yeah.
the revelation of His love becomes so profound
That's so
Yeah.
and
powerful.
powerful
Yeah.
that it allows you to see His love in everything.
Yeah.
So if I'm being chastised by my leader, I see God's love. If I'm having a
That's so powerful.
difficulty, I see God's love. All
Yeah.
these things, I see God's love because He's giving me what I asked for. Because if I ask to be, for patience, if I ask for all these different attributes,
There has to be a situation.
Yeah, it has to be a situation.
That's
So
right.
you love me
That's
enough
right.
to
That's
give
right.
me the situation.
That's
And
right.
I believe, Sister Corinne and Ella Carol, and all of the women out there and the people out there that's listening to us, when God calls leaders out, I honestly believe that He has anointed us to go through certain things.
Absolutely.
So I believe that there is an expectation
Yeah.
for all leaders
Yeah.
that they, in order
You
to
have to
be
go through something.
productive in the kingdom of God,
Right.
Absolutely.
in order to qualify as
Yeah.
true leadership, you have to be willing
Yeah.
to give
That's
up
it.
your
Yeah,
right
That's right. You have to.
for
That's
God's
right.
righteousness
Yeah.
at the gate.
Yeah.
True
Right.
leadership.
Right.
True leadership.
Because we can't afford to be in this.
Right.
Yeah.
You can't give
We
it
can't be
grudgingly.
afford to be in a tug of war.
That's
right.
We can't afford
Yeah.
because He chose us for
That's
this.
right.
Like
Right.
Corinne, when I thought about when you listened to hear her testimony, Ella Carol, if you were there, like I'm seeing God all over. He chose you for that. Because he knew that you were going to give up your right for righteousness so that he can get the glory out of your life.
Right.
And I think when we look at that, Ella Cara, we're able to look at our situation so differently.
Yes.
When we go, whoa, Ella Cara, what you went through, it was not about you.
About me.
God picked
That's right.
you out. He didn't pick on you.
No, he
he
picked me
picked
out.
you out because he knew, you know what, at the end of the day, I'm going to get the glory.
That's right.
Out of that,
That's right.
Right.
out of that
That's right.
situation,
Absolutely.
God picked Angela out
That's
because
right.
he knew, Angela, I'm going to get
That's
the glory
right.
out of that situation because I knew you were going to give up your rights.
Right.
We're talking about true kingdom
Yes.
leadership now.
Absolutely.
Right.
Absolutely. Same as how he